I do what I do. He knows what I'm about to tell him right now. It's Mr. Keep running your mouth. That's what I do.
I just feel like I'm the champ, and at the end of the day, I'm just a fighting motherfucker. It doesn't matter. Inside, outside, I can just fight. So I just feel like if it gets down to the wire, and we gotta lock it up, I'm out on top.
As you can see how I'm looking, I stay solid. I'm always solid. I stay fucked something up, right? You know what I'm saying? To the fans that know.
Do that job outside the ring. I'm a fighter. Like I said before, ain't no safety on the clock, so I'm ready.
When I was a casual, I thought as a casual, I spoke like a casual, and I looked at boxing like a casual. But when I became a hardcore, I put away all those casual things. This is Michael Rogers, and welcome to Bodywork Boxing. So, it is Sunday, July the 18th, and we had a big fight last night. Unfortunately, we didn't get an undisputed champion. I know, right? I was blown, but I understand. And, I just wanted to talk about some things, get into some body work, you know how I do. But my thoughts, we had Jermell the Iron Man Charlo versus Brian El Boxy Castano for the Super Welterweight World Championship for undisputed. And the fight didn't disappoint. I think that neither one of them were fully able to execute their game plans. But if I had to lean a certain way as far as executing the game plan, I would have to lean towards Castano. Because he actually was pretty good at dictating in the ring what he wanted to do. And to my surprise, the Iron Man, he was a little different. We know he don't throw a lot of shots. We know that he don't throw a lot of punches, but he was a little different. And, in the post-fight interview, somebody asked, one of the journalists asked, was there something wrong with his right shoulder? Because I kept looking at it, and it looked like it was real pointy on one side, and I was like, okay, maybe I just never noticed that about him, but this part right here looked real pointy, and he didn't bring that right hand. So, Castano did what he liked to do, come forward. I think once he got a taste of that left hook, I believe, from Jermell, he kind of fell back because he was hurt. He was like, oh, snap, I can't do that because he got caught. He got caught flush. He had a little yank out, and he yanked that joint, you know what I'm saying, one time, and he was hurt. So he was like, oh, he tasted some of that power, and he was like, I don't really know if I want none of that, you know what I'm saying? But I reason that this was one of those times where, like Eminem said, man, you gotta lose yourself in the moment, and I'm not sure if Jermell, if this big stage, this big stage, was a little bit too much for him. In all honesty, I don't know if it was just too much for him. In the big bright lights, when those big bright lights come on, sometimes it influences people in different ways. I was checking his body language. I was looking at his energy coming into the ring, and he had that serious look, and he was looking like, but I don't know. I don't know what was going on in his mind. I don't know if time, because sometimes I know playing football, I know everything used to slow down. When you in the heat of the moment and you either running the ball and everything seemed like it got real slow. You know what I'm saying? Everything slowed down, and so time, how it real time doesn't really equate in your mind because everything slows down. So I don't know if everything was slowed down, but I think what I saw, this is what I saw. I saw Brian Castano implementing his game plan. And I think he was almost one of those things where he was going to like push the envelope right up into the edge to where he get caught. And every now and again he got caught. What I stated in my previous video when I was doing my prediction, I stated that he is a come forward multiple flurry type fighter, but that a lot of those shots don't connect. So when you got a lot of oohs and ahs, you know what I'm saying, there was some of his people in the crowd saying ooh and ah, and he wasn't getting hit, but he did catch Charlo. He did catch him a couple times, and I think between him dipping down and ducking down and getting caught at the same time, some of those shots look more effective than what they were. But I am saying he did catch Charlo. He did. Jermell was actually able to inflict more punishment when he did connect. And I think that he was in a catch-22 between throwing more punches and getting outside of what his typical output is. I think he was struggling between whether I do more and, you know, risk my accuracy going down, or do I fall back and take what's coming? And I think it was like about 3 or 4 rounds where he didn't grab the bull by the horns. And Derek James kept telling him, you know, like, hey, you know, turn it up. You know what I'm saying? Use your jab, pivot, turn. You know what I'm saying? And so because it was a plan. It was almost like the minute Jermell was on the back foot. The minute he got like about a foot and a half away, that's when Brian Castano would really come in, you know, fill that gap and increase, you know, and decrease that space. And he would throw his flurries upstairs, downstairs, like what he liked to do. And every now and again he would come through. And Jermell was just at the mercy of either the ropes, leaning back, being in a very vulnerable position. And he knew that if every now and again, if I just throw that right, Castano knew that if he just threw that right, he was going to catch him. And so that right was finding a home. So what I can say is that Castano was the aggressor. And like I said in my prediction, in my breakdown before, was that sometimes the judges look at that. Who's the aggressor? Who's able to dictate? And so even though Castano was able to actually dictate the fight, for the most part, he was able to dictate the fight. I don't think that he dominated the fight. It's a difference. Because he couldn't do nothing when Jermell was in the middle of the ring throwing the jab, and when Jermell decided to get in and, you know, and he was turning. But it was when Jermell decided to allow himself to back up to the point of where he was on the ropes. So perception would say that, hey, Castano dictated the fight. I can't say that he dominated. Now, it was clear that effective punching would have to go to Jermell, because when he really got home and he got connected, he was more efficient. You could see the body language. You could see everything change. You know, you could see a lot when he actually was able to connect. So, all in all, when they came down to the judgment, you know, leading up to it, I said, man, because in the pre-fight prediction, I said that Jermell really can't leave it up to the judges. And I think since he tasted defeat at the hands of the judges, that he would not allow that to happen. And Derek James was pretty much telling him, hey, like, look, man, you need to knock out. You know what I'm saying? So he's basically saying you need to knock out in order to win. Now, whether that was insinuating that he was losing, we don't know. At that point, that would be a question for Derek James. Was he saying that because he was losing, or he was saying that, like, right now it's neck and neck, and in order to, like, turn up and get over the top, you're going to need to knock out. And so I kept waiting for Jermell. It was like he was, at some points I thought he was gun shy, but then I was thinking, okay, well, he just exhibiting patience, and then he going to, but then, you know, next thing you know, we getting down to a minute. We getting down to 30 seconds, and it just seemed like he wasn't his normal self. So, when it came down to the judges saying that it was a draw, I think that was good and bad. I can't say that Castano got robbed, because he was clearly hurt more in the fight. but he did dictate the pace. He did kind of dictate the distance, but he did steal a lot of rounds. To where Jermell was doing his thing, he was boxing, and I think the expectations of Jermell is what hurt the perception of the fight more. People are not used to Jermell staying back like that. He might be losing in the boxing match, but they're not used. They're used to him turning up at some point and becoming an aggressor and going forward. And in those champion rounds, even though I think he won all those champion rounds because he hurt him late. He hurt him in the 10th. And I think even though he won those championship rounds, it wasn't in a fashion that he normally do it. He normally becomes aggressive. So after he see what you spent in the gas tank and he got his, he turns up and he starts, connecting. And once he feels like, he hurt you, there's a suddenness about him where he jumps on you. And I think that he was being too cautious once he knew that he got hurt because I guess he didn't want to get caught with a haymaker. I don't know. Question I would have loved to ask him. Because normally when he goes into his suddenness, he turns into a viper. Where he can get you up out of there. So in all, I agree with the decision. If somebody would have told me that Castano won, I wouldn't argue with him. If somebody would have said that Jermell edged it out, I wouldn't argue with him. But all in all, I think that since this is a big money play, and they know that since this fight was like this, they know that another fight will be even more on a bigger stage and will garner more money. I think that's why that decision came up there. I'm not going to get into the breakdown of the scores and the wide margins and all that because judges do that. You always want to see somebody way out in left field, like what fight was you watching? So all in all, I mean, I don't think there was a robbery because if you ask the performance that Castano put on, did it warrant him taking over? Because most of the time they say you got to take over the champ. Like you got to dominate the champ in order to take it. So if it's neck and neck, did you dominate the champ? And I can't say that he dominated because yes, he hurt Jermell, but he didn't hurt Jermell the way Jermell hurt him, if that makes sense. So I think that Jermell, you could say that Jermell was more effective in actually defending what he was having more than Castano was able to dominate. Now, if you say you think Castano had actually airs it out, I wouldn't argue with you. I wouldn't argue. So, I mean, very interesting fight. And I know that the community, with the comments that Mel has said, I know that they about to have a field day. And just like I predicted, they were saying they're not going to watch the fight and putting out all this information about, how no, he need to suffer the consequences and, learn from the responsibility of or the irresponsibility of using, bad words and bad language and the mindset that he needs to learn. But I know it was sad, but I'm pretty sure they were rooting. They were rooting for his downfall. But it was a draw. Jermell, he wasn't sad about it. He said it happens, he felt like he won. That's his opinion. But I'm pretty sure there's a lot of people like turning over, you know what I'm saying? Like some people lost some sleep last night on the fact that Jermell didn't lose. He didn't win, but he didn't lose. So all in all, it's one of those to be continued. But moving on to the undercards, Rolly was Rolly. Not too much to say about Rolly. We pretty much know who Rolly is. You know what I'm saying? He just want to exhibit his power. He always trying to go for the knockout. He's not very technically sound. But he is a personality. He can sell a fight. He definitely can sell a fight. He's definitely like a camera need to be on Rolly at all times. He's just an interesting individual to watch and listen to, man. He's very funny. The way he sound, the way he talking, his mindset, his mannerisms. He's just an interesting guy. So I like Rolly for different reasons, you know what I'm saying? I do like the power he has, but he really needs to work on his technical abilities. Moving on. The very first fight, Aleem versus Vidal. I didn't agree with the judges on the scorecard on that one. I really don't. I think Aleem did enough to actually win that fight. And at the very minimum, he should have at least got a draw. He was doing a lot of things, and for the guy to give up his height and his reach advantage the way he did, I think that he was more effective. If he had more power, man, he could have ended that fight. He just seemed like he didn't have the power, but he had some speed. He showed some speed, but it was pity pat punches. You know, he did make Vidal's head snap back or whatever, but for some reason, I guess the judges felt like the more effective puncher was in Vidal. But the decision in that first fight let me know that, man, if Jermell didn't do, like, if he didn't come by and do beyond a shadow of a doubt, remove all doubt with a performance like that, I knew that the way they were judging last night, that it was going to kind of be something fishy. And I think maybe one of the things, going back to Jermell, is that when you give up your height and your read advantage, and it's emphasized that you have the height advantage, you have the reach advantage, and you have the experience advantage, and you also have the advantage as far as power. I think that having those expectations up here, when you forfeit those and you fight a different style fight, where that fight is being fought that way for the majority of the fight, judges consider that too. So, all in all, it was a good night of boxing. You know, those are my perspective. I see a lot of outrage, a lot of people saying, oh, Castano got robbed. Nobody got robbed. Nobody got robbed. It was what it was. It was just one of those to be continued. Did he do enough to take all three of the other belts? Did he? Was Jermell's performance that bad that warranted him to lose all three of his belts to Castano? Was it a robbery? When do they need to run it back? Should they run it back? I think they got to run it back. It's unfinished business. And that's pretty much all I really had to say about that one, y'all. Body work.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained? Is this not why you are here?
I do what I do. He knows what I'm about to tell him right now. It's Mr. Keep running your mouth. That's what I do.
I just feel like I'm the champ, and at the end of the day, I'm just a fighting motherfucker. It doesn't matter. Inside, outside, I can just fight. So I just feel like if it gets down to the wire, and we gotta lock it up, I'm out on top.
Hey man, look, as you can see how I'm looking, I stay solid. I'm always solid. I stay fuck solid up, bro. You know what I'm saying? To the fans that
He did a job outside the ring. I'm a fighter, like I said before. There ain't no safety on the clock, so I'm like,